Good evening, superstars. How are you doing? Benita, I see you already made this place full of messages. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Hello, everybody, and stuff like that. Yeah, good evening, superstars, once again. Yeah, welcome back to class. Benita Phillips, I think you are the first person, so good evening. Um, Gloria almost saw me. I think this is the first time I'm seeing Gloria in the class. So welcome to class if this is your first time joining us. Yeah, uh, Mary, okay, good evening. Patricia, how you doing? I hope you're good. Um, Divine Igwe, I think this is the first time I'm seeing you also. So good evening once again. So I'm just going to start. If this is your first time joining us, my name is Tesla. Understand? So I'm just going to give you that as my name. I don't think I've formally introduced myself to you guys. Yusuf Aishat, good evening. I hope your day was good. I hope everybody's day was good. So basically, as we all know, we don't waste time when we get to class, so we just get into everything. So in the previous class, we were able to go through the last part of the transport, respiration, and support mechanisms, where we talked about the respiration of the insect. We said they use the trachea. We talked about for fishes. We said they use gills, which are okay. My day was alright too. Thank you very much, Yusuf Aishat. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Yes, my day was good, Priscilla. So, yes, like so we talked about for fishes, we talked about the use gills. We see the way it is used. We saw that it has the lamellae that is present there. Oh, welcome, Divine Igwe. That means you have a lot of things to catch up on. I mean, I feel like we've already done 9 classes now. Understand? So make sure you go watch the videos. Chioma Ewin, yes. It's okay, no problem. No problem. Yeah, Priscilla. Okay, 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 no problem. Nice. Benita, it's your fault. It's not really mine. Okay. I think I made mention of one thing that as tutors, we are not here to what do you call it? I'm teaching you for jam. Yeah, if I was your class teacher now, you get that would have been a different matter entirely. Then I would have been able to wait for you, then start calling it for you. You understand? You get it's not a teacher wait for me. We are not doing that. This is a jam class. So the little time we have to spend it very, very wisely. So make sure you are following and let your hand be fast. I mean, you are going to be a university student this year. So that's one thing you should learn. When you get to university, nobody waits for you. You get like the lecturer does not care whether or not you write it. His own is just to come to class. In fact, he will tell you he does not teach, he lectures. Understand? So you can thank you very much, Noah. Noah, yeah, good evening. Good evening. Yes, you can record the classes also. You get. So let's not waste time on that. So in that topic, in the previous topic, we're able to emphasize, we are going to lay emphasis on the support systems we have in plants, the support systems we have in humans. We talked about respiration, how it occurs, understand? So then we moved from there and then we entered into excretion. Yes, excretion. Yeah, we talked about excretion basically and we were able to what do you call it talk about a couple of things under excretion. We saw that in human bodies we have different what do you call it, which is namely the kidney, the skin, and the third one is your lungs, for instance, which is used for excretion. So we've seen a couple of these things, so we are not going to just dwell on that. I think I spent 4 minutes 30 seconds. So you are doing computer science and okay, no problem. Benita Phillips. Well, it depends. Choma Ewing. Yeah, it depends what you want to study. I would not advise combining computer science with biology together. If you want to study medicine, you have to go for biology, pick physics, pick chemistry, and then you pick what they call it. But I don't know now whether they allow for that. But I believe if you want to do medicine, you want to do any medicine related courses, you have to have physics inside because you know nowadays I think they've changed curriculums way too much. So I'm not current on that yet. Not current on that. But during what they call it last 2 years, which I basically what they call it anchored for them, I saw that chemistry, physics is very, very paramount if you are doing any medicine related courses. Because when you get to year one, you are still going to do physics that you ran away from. You get you won't do as a medical student, you don't need mathematics. So you that you are writing mathematics, Priscilla, you don't need mathematics. But let's just what it call. I've always said put questions to the end of the class. See what is causing for us like this now. We start reproduction. This is a very, very interesting topic that we are going to talk about this evening. And always, like I said, make sure you are with me all through the class. If you go for a minute, I think it's the same thing that happened this morning. I had lots of crowd, and then some of them like left within a minute, and then when they came back, they're like, "Ah, sir, please, can you do this? Can you do?" No, 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 no. I'm not. I won't be doing that. You get. So if your network somehow causes a problem, it is your fault. You get. If it is my own network, it's not my own fault. But if it's your network, it's your fault. You get. So you should have found a place where there is better connection. So let's start. Reproduction. What is reproduction? What are we going to be discussing under reproduction? Now, if you remember very well, I said every organism we are what do you call it? We are common in one process in the fact that every organism needs to preserve their species. And how do they do that? It is through reproduction. So it is either they undergo asexual reproduction or sexual reproduction. We've been able to talk about this in previous classes. So for this class, we are going to now specify on this. We are going to see how plants and animals, how they reproduce, how unicellular organisms reproduce, how, from all the five kingdoms that we have there, the Monera, the Protista, fungi, plantae, and Animalia. How do they reproduce? What is the what they call it? What's the importance of it? We are going to see that. So at the end of this topic, you should be able to define reproduction and distinguish between asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. You should be able to describe types of asexual reproduction, especially fission and budding. So, especially binary fission and budding. Those ones there are types of asexual reproduction. So, what makes asexual reproduction different from sexual? Some people understand the definition, but when it comes to differentiating between the two of them, they start to make mistakes here and there. So we are going to make sure that this topic we tie it up so that nobody has a problem when they enter into exam and they see reproduction. So we continue. Next one is you should be able to identify the parts of a flower and explain pollination and fertilization in plant. Now, if somebody says pollination is the process by which the whole reproduction occurs in plants, it is a lie. Of course, it is the process by which the male gamete and the female gametes come together, which I'm also going to say in this topic, but it's not the full process by which it produces a full-grown organism. You understand? Plants have to produce a full-grown organism, so it takes them a long process for that to happen. For human beings, it is 9 months. For plants, it depends. You understand? Sometimes it takes Benita Phillips. I think I think it's not going to be hard. Let me just say that to you, you understand? Because I don't even know how to respond to your question. because reproduction is not just man and woman coming together. You get, that's it. Let me just put it that way. You get, so it's not just man and woman coming together in this place. Yeah, but I think that's the misconception you guys have when it comes to reproduction. When you hear reproduction, what you just think is daddy and mommy, oh yo yo. You understand? That's not what happens in this case. Thank you very much. So we continue. Benita Phillips, please. Now we see identify mammalian reproductive organs, and you should be able to do it. Okay, sorry. You should be able to explain seed formation, which is the first process, the fruit classification, and types of germination. You understand? So the whole process of their reproduction goes from pollination down to germination. You understand? That is their reproductive process all through. You get, so we now have, we identify the mammalian reproductive organs. We should be able to identify that. I believe that's what this girl is talking about, Benita. So we are going to get there because animals are the, so 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 we continue. You guys, what do you call it? No problem. With me, if I ask questions, Sha, you're not able to respond. That's where the problem will start. So at the end of the class is where we'll now see the, what they call it. We as higher organisms, as the mammals in this case here, we have mammals like whales and so on and so forth. We are going to talk about their reproductive organs in that place. So now let's start. Boom. The subtopics are asexual reproduction, sexual reproduction in plant, fertilization and fruit formation, and then we now have reproduction in mammals. So we have four subtopics in this topic. Now, what is reproduction? Reproduction is the biological process by which living organisms produce new individuals of their own kind. You understand? So, what do you call it? Yes, indeed. So let's continue. So when we talk about reproduction, it is a biological process. Now, when you hear biological process, basically it involves what, a chemical process that occurs in living organisms. That is what we call biological process. You get, so I think I've been able to establish that. So it's just like for human beings, is like the egg and the sperm cells. Understand? The egg is a mature sex cell, which is called a gamete. It's the same thing as a sperm also. Understand? When you hear gamete, the word gamete, what they mean is a mature sex cell. Understand? So that's just what they are talking about. So in this case here, we see that it is a biological process by which living organisms produce new individuals of their own kind. And I mentioned it from the beginning that every organism has to propagate their own species. You understand? That is the work of every organism, unless they will go extinct. So, what is now this importance by which they produce their new individuals? The first one is ensuring the continuity of species. The reason why we are here today is because Abraham then decided to reproduce. You get, because of the reproduction, we have continuity of species. If we want to end our species, we want to cause extinction, which is another importance that it helps to prevent extinction. If you want to cause extinction, just take away the ability to reproduce. If you take away the ability to reproduce, before you know it, the mortality rate will be on high rate. Why the natality rate becomes low? Mortality is the rate at which people die. Why natality is the rate at which new children are born. You understand? So natality rate is at that, what they call it. So if you see in a society where the mortality rate is higher than the natality rate, you see that they become small. It's the same thing that was happening in Korea. If you guys are very, very current, you understand? If you are not current, you should go and look. The whole feminism of a thing. Yet where women are saying that they would not give birth. You understand? It's a feminism movement and it has reduced their population. You get. So that's why the what do you call it? The setting some, but that's not part of the topic we are talking about. So extinction, prevent extinction. We see some species have gone extinct.
Why is because of their what? Their ability to reproduce. You get, there was no like a female counterpart for them to reproduce, or no male counterpart for them to reproduce, and therefore they went extinct. So another importance in this case here is it helps to transfer hereditary characteristics. So either by asexual reproduction or by sexual reproduction, you can transfer characteristics. You get, so there are, in evolution, there are things that specific organisms have, in this case here, that helps them survive, and therefore they are able to pass it to the next organism. For ladies in this class now, you guys, when they say, okay, what is your dream man, please, we are not going to go there, so nobody should comment in the DM, in the comment section. But if they say, who is your dream man, you will say, okay, he has to be tall, he has to be, what do you call it, 6 foot tall, he has to be handsome, he has to be this, that, so on and so forth. That there is because you want to give birth to a child that is tall also. It's not short kids. You get. So the reason is because of that hereditary characteristics that is desirable to many organisms, has to be transferred from one generation to another generation. And that there is another importance of reproduction. You get, yeah, what do you call it? Black people can survive in the sun without what do you call it? Skin tan. What do you call this thing? SPF. I've forgotten. Sunscreen. Thank you very much. So sunscreen, they can survive, to an extent under the sun without their skin getting skin cancer. The reason why white people use sunscreen very much anytime they are going out is because just a little bit exposure can cause skin cancer for them, whereas it is different for us. You understand? That is why another thing there is reproduction has been able to bring all these desirable characteristics down. So if you now limit it down to like nuclear family, the reason why you look like your daddy is through reproduction. During reproduction, there is a transfer of DNA material. You understand? We've been able to see it very, very well, even before this topic, that if a cell breaks down, the DNA, the nucleus, also breaks down with it. But during sexual reproduction, there is a donation. In human beings, in every one of us, we have 46 chromosomes. So in our sex cells, we tend to donate 23 of it. The male donates 23, the female donates 23, and then they come together through a process called fusion. And then when it fuses together, it starts to break down through a process called meiosis. We're going to talk about all these things. So that there is another transfer of DNA. So it might be identical, or it might have the same, what they call it. This topic is interesting. Let me not just waste time on this part. So it also helps with increase in population. Instead, wait, classic damn cell. Hey, you guys are commenting in the DM. Can you ask your question? If it's not going to derail it, ask a question, please. Ask. So we continue. Nobody wants a short guy. Okay, no problem. So we continue. We see there are two major types of reproduction. The first one is the asexual reproduction, which we are going to talk about. We have the second one, which is also the sexual reproduction. Also, we are going to buttress on it very well in this topic. So we start. What is asexual reproduction? Asexual reproduction, I'm seeing what do you call it? Okay, Benita Phillips, please, you can ask your question. I am still waiting for it. So we continue. Someone is saying now, wow. So we continue. We see the definition of asexual reproduction is a reproduction that involves just one parent. You understand? So it's only one parent cell we have in this place here. And basically, it occurs in unicellular organisms the most, or lower multicellular organisms. We're going to talk about that. When we talk about the PCP namaic, at this point, we all understand that mnemonic device is for the phylums that are present under the kingdom Animalia. So the lowest is the porifera. Under the porifera is where we see the hydra, And we know that the hydras, they exist as what? As um, hermaphrodites. We've been able to establish that fact, and therefore they give birth via asexual reproduction, even though they are animals. So we don't limit asexual reproduction just to unicellular organisms. We also see that fungus is capable of asexual reproduction. In fact, that's how they reproduce. Mushrooms, they use asexual reproduction by what? By propagating their spores. It's the same thing with rhizopods also. If you've not been in the classes where I was mentioning this, go back and watch videos. Oh. You understand? You're not going to have to go back to this again. So yes, yes, okay. What would happen if organisms stopped reproducing? Uh, and please just intercessors. I really want to know. Yes, the first thing is that is going to happen is that the rate at which we grow. It's like everybody's just going to grow. Nobody's going to give birth to kids. And when everybody grows old, it might take a very long time. Probably just know that the whole race of humans are going to go extinct within 100 to 120 years. You understand? Because we have newborn babies now. Just say for now that when we what do you call it? We have new babies in the hospital. I'm not going to take much time to respond to that because we've already spent 21 minutes already. And I'm someone that is very, very time conscious when it comes to time. So what I'm trying to say is that we have new kids that are born today. So just give it within 100 years to 120 years, there will be nobody existing on this planet again. And the problem is that if one, what do you call it? If one part of an ecosystem crumbles, the other part of the ecosystem tend to fall to it. Now, if you look at, there are many, many things. I always tell people that the people that say mosquitoes, they wish that mosquitoes were not there. You understand? Noah gave us something good. That's why it took them into the what they call it, into the ship. If they were not useful to our ecosystem, it would not have been taken into the ship. You understand? So that's CRS. You can go ask your CRS teacher. So mosquitoes are part of the ecosystem. If all mosquitoes should die today, human beings are going to follow. You can Google search that. Why is it that when mosquitoes die, human beings will follow? You get all the animals, we what they call it. So we see that there are some things that are propagated by humans. Say, for example, fruits, they have to grow in certain places. Propagation of fruit, he said they have zero respect. I don't know. You can tell the mosquitoes in your house to respect you. So we see the fruits have to be propagated by what? By organisms that feed on them. We see that there are some organisms that feed on the feces of human beings, and so on and so forth. So we see how all those organisms start to go extinct from the fact that they cannot feed on some things, they cannot go. So that's just how it is. Now, the second, why is the transfer of hereditary characteristics important for reproduction? The rest will be okay. So I'm going to answer this question when we get to a certain place. There's one thing I want to make a mention of. So let's go. When we get to a certain place, I'll make reference to that question. There's something I want to what do you call it. I don't want to spoil it yet. Now, the characteristics is one parent is involved. The second thing is there is no fertilization at all, because fertilization means that the male gamete has to fuse with the female gamete. That is fertilization. Understand? So since there is no male and female gamete, just one parent involved, there's no fertilization at all. Now, the offsprings are genetically identical. So they are clones of each other. It's not that there is one that is what they call it, that has the face of his mommy and the neck of his daddy. You understand? All of them have the same characteristics, the same mass of their nucleus, the same mass of cytoplasm, the same everything, number of ribosomes. And it is a rapid process. That is why we see that unicellular organisms that carry out these things, you understand? Unicellular organisms that carry out these processes have a fast rate of giving birth. That's why you notice for malaria, it only takes them 28 days to wreak havoc in your system. And then you start seeing you have what? You have a fever, you have what they call it. These guys are microscopic. How is it that a microscopic organism can cause you to start shivering on your bed? You understand? When you can't even see it with your eye. In comparison with your body, they are very, very minute. How is that so? It's because the moment they get into your blood, where there is enough nourishment for them. They have the food you are eating nourishes them. Everything is nourishing them. They feed on those things inside your blood. They start to reproduce instantly. Within like 30 seconds, you might have thousands of them inside your blood. So within 28 days, they are enough to overpower your immune system. Your immune system starts to battle it. It raises your body temperature, and so on and so forth. You have fever in your body. So it's the same thing for bacteria also. So we see for asexual reproduction, it is a very, very rapid process. Now, it is common in simple organisms. So simple organisms, unicellular or simple multicellular organisms. That's what they're talking about there. So why they say it is a rapid process is in comparison to sexual reproduction, that has to take a very, very long time. Yet that has to take a very, very long time. It only takes a very few, yeah, what do you call it? For human beings now, it takes like how many? It takes 9 months. The gestation period is approximately 9 months or less. You get. So that's just how it is. We continue. So types of asexual reproduction is the binary fission. The binary fission. Excuse me. So the binary fission, we have the body. Binary fission, we've overemphasized this, and at this point, I feel like even if I wake somebody from their sleep and I say, "What's binary fission?" You guys should be able to say what binary fission is. So we see budding is another example of asexual reproduction. We see spore formation. Spore formation is used basically in fungi and lower level plants that uses spore to propagate themselves. So we see that in mushrooms, when they grow their fruit, we see that under, say for example, for inside the lamellas that are under them, there are spores that are present. We call them the sporophytes. So as the sporophyte is being transferred, then it goes to the ground, forms a rhizome, and then from there you have a mycelium. We talked about that in fungi. It's also the same thing that happens for the rhizopause. We've also seen the same thing that happens for what do you call it? For toadstool and the rest. So spore formation is also an example of a divine Igwe. Please write it down. At the end of the class, I'll respond to it. We are 30 minutes into the class already. So we see spore formation is used by fungi, and it is an asexual reproduction. It's an asexual reproduction where what do you call it? Because we don't have two gametes coming together. That's the difference. When there is no gamete being fused together, it is an asexual reproduction. You understand? The next one is vegetative propagation, which can happen either naturally or artificially. We'll get there. And then we now have fragmentation. Now, fragmentation is now the breakdown of what they call it, an organism. We've seen that it happens in Spirogyra. Spirogyra is a bryophyte. It is under what? It's a low-level plant. So therefore, it either undergoes an asexual reproduction where there is a transfer of nuclear material. You get. Divine Igwe, write it down. I'll respond to that at the end of the class. So you said, is it unicellular organisms that is it asexual reproduction? I think I just mentioned it. Can somebody respond to that? I said it's not just asexual reproduction. Sorry, it's not just unicellular organisms. Please, somebody should respond to him or her. So somebody should respond to that. If I know if I respond to that, it's just going to what do you call it? Or I can respond to it at the end of the class. Excuse me. The air in the nose. So we see fragmentation can also occur when the organism breaks a part of its body, and that is another example of asexual reproduction. Thank you very much. It is the answer is no. You get. If somebody can just explain why. I just mentioned it now that it is unicellular organisms and simple multicellular organisms. If you were listening, you get. Try and pay more attention. So we now see the first one for asexual reproduction is binary fission. So we want to see so I just mentioned it that for the person that is asking whether it is unicellular organism or simple multicellular organism, I mentioned it that sorry Asexual reproduction happens in unicellular organisms. At the same time, it happens in simple multicellular organisms. Even animals like Hydra undergoes that process. I think I made mention of the fact that under the phylum Porifera is where we have very, very low level animals that do not have body segmentation, and therefore they don't have they eat the Hydra eats through its mouth and also defecates through its mouth. You understand? There is no exit. So I think I have made mention of that. You get so in that place, yeah. This. So let's follow the class. I think we are already what they call it into it. So we continue. So binary fission is the first one. So binary fission, the word binary means two, and fission makes breakdown. So it's just a breakdown of a cell into two parts. You understand? So for a binary fission, it will never break down. A parent cell will never break down into a number that is more than two. You never see breakdown into four, eight, or the rest. You get it's after it has now broken down that daughter cells can now break down further and so on and so forth. So we see the definition is that it is a type of asexual reproduction where one organism divides into two identical daughter cells. So in that place here, we have one. Then we see the next one is the elongation of the nucleus. The nucleus elongates and then or becomes longer. I don't think elong is correct English. So then we see a septum is formed. This septum is this place that bends inward. We call it the septum. You understand? And then it now divides into two daughter cells. So that there is a reproduction, an asexual reproduction. As you can see, they are identical, the same mass, the same size of nucleus, the same number of ribosomes that are present inside. At this point, you should be able to tell that these guys that are here are the ribosomes. So please let's calm down. You understand? You ask your questions. So the reason why you are going to spend time answering questions in this class. So the reason why they call it daughter cell is that we have the cell that is generated from the parent cell. Parent cell, we call it offspring cell or daughter cell. You get, you understand? It's not because they are identical. That's not why they call them daughter cells. You get, it's because of it is generated from the parent cell. That's why we call them the daughter cell. We get, and because there is no what they call it, there's no sex for them. Just call them the daughter cell. So we now see the hydra undergoes which type of asexual reproduction. We are going to get them. So we now see it's common in what? In amoeba. That's the first thing. The second one is in paramecium. The third one is in what? Is in bacteria. So we see that binary fission is limited to unicellular organisms, namely the kingdom Monera. Kingdom Monera is where you find your bacteria and your cyanobacteria, which is called blue-green algae. And then under your protista is where you find your amoeba, paramecium, and euglena. So all of them undergo what we call binary fission. Please make sure you know this. I'm not going back to kingdom Monera and kingdom protista. We've done that very long ago. So if you were not present in that class, please go back and watch the videos. You understand? I would love if you guys can be with me. You get. So yes, we are getting there. The reason why I didn't respond to Yusuf Aishat's question is because there we are going to get to where Hydra is. You get, and I'm going to explain it very well. We are 30 minutes in. We have just like around 30 minutes left so that we can answer the questions within that 30 minutes frame time. So we see the process of binary fission is the first thing is the nucleus. Is the first thing, the initiation of that process is that the nucleus, not the cytoplasm, the nucleus divides first. It's the one that goes, it becomes long, as you can see in this place. The nucleus that long, what they call it, and then it then divides. Then after that, after it divides, because you can't have two nucleus in a cell, then the cell now breaks down into two. You get, the cell breaks down into two. The cytoplasm divides after the nucleus divides, and the cytoplasm is where we have the ribosome, we have the contractile vacuole, we have so on and so forth. So they break down into two, and then we now have what? Two identical organisms are now formed, which is called the daughter cell. You understand? So the importance is that it produces genetically identical offspring. So they have the same characteristics. You see, this is the reason why human beings cannot undergo binary fission. You understand? Imagine somebody just walking towards you, and all of a sudden he just creates another part of himself. It's just going to look somehow. He gets creates a clone of himself. So it's limited to unicellular organisms. Now, the next type of asexual reproduction is budding. You understand? If you look at it again, in this place here, I said the second one is what? Is budding. So budding happens in two organisms. Yusuf Aisha, pay close attention. The first one is yeast. The second one is Chizaram Wombodo. What don't you understand? Please, you can ask your question. You get. So I'll continue, but ask a question, drop a question so I can see it. Now we see budding is a form of asexual reproduction, which you already know at this point, where a new organism develops as an outgrowth or bud from the parent cell. So it developed like a cancer on the, what they call it. So as you can see, the nucleus for a yeast, the first thing is the nucleus now does what? It elongates and forms a bud, and then the nucleus breaks off. Note, in every unicellular, what they call it, reproduction, it is, should I say unicellular? Let me not limit it to unicellular. But in binary fission and budding, the first thing that breaks down is the nucleus. You understand? So they have a lot in common. It is an asexual reproduction. So in this place here, we see it breaks down into the bud, and the bud has a nucleus of itself, and then it starts to grow. The daughter cells start to grow on the parent cell. You can see the parent yeast, the chains of yeast are now formed, and the daughter yeast. And this is what we take advantage of. Chizara Mobodo, I'm still waiting for your question. What don't you understand? So we see that this is what we take advantage of when we want to make a dough rise. You understand? So you add yeast to it, then you add sugar to it and warm water. At the end of the day, because what they call it, it breaks down like the cell membrane, which now allows it to feed on the sugar, and then it starts to do what? Starts to create daughter cells. And that's what you call the swelling. The rising of the dough is this budding process that the yeast is undergoing. Some of you that are familiar with making puff puff would understand what I'm trying to say in this case here. So that's what they do in to make it rise. So the second one is for the hydra. So I said hydras are lower level animals that exist in kingdom Porifera. So as you can see, this is the image. Yusuf Aishat, I hope you are paying close attention. Look at this, and those of you that have the same question as Yusuf Aishat. So you see, this is the hydra. You see, it's the same thing also, the nucleus which is present inside. This is the mouth, these are the tentacles, and so on and so forth. So this is where the nucleus is present. The nucleus now breaks down into this part, as you can see here. Breaks down into this place here. It's the same thing, it creates a bud, but then its own bud breaks away from it. As you can see, for the yeast here, it remains on it, while for the hydra, it breaks away from it. It's also a budding production, but one stays on it, while the other, what do you call it? Yes, it is fermentation. Thank you very much. So it's fermentation. So that's just it. Fermentation is the, what do you call it? You add sugar to it, glucose under that case here. You add glucose to it, and then you cover it up. Without the presence of oxygen, the breakdown of glucose cannot occur, and therefore it gives you what? Ethanol, and so on and so forth. So that's what the yeast breaks down. When you guys get into chemistry, you can't do that. I'm not going to enter into that realm now. Just understand that yeast undergoes budding. Under chemistry, you cannot go and be talking about the whole process of fermentation itself. So the process is that the bud forms on the parent body, like I've mentioned. That's what happens there. Then the nucleus divides. Then after the nucleus divides is when we now start to see the bud growing on it. So as it starts to grow in that place here, you see the parent hydra, this is it here, developing bud, the new bud, and the new hydra is being produced. then the bud detaches or remains attached. Detaches in the case of the hydra, remains attached in the case of yeast. So the key point is to notice that the offspring is also genetically identical to the parent. Since it is an asexual reproduction, there is no addition of genes from anywhere. The genes are just from the parent, making it what? Genetically identical. You understand? The reason why we are not genetically identical to our parents, totally, when they want to do DNA test for you and they say you are like 90% the, what do you call it, the son of your father, the remaining 10% of the gene comes from who? From your mom. You get? So the gene is mixed. So you are not genetically identical. If you are 100% like your dad, you understand, everything you do will be like your dad. You look like your dad, your eyes will be like your dad. In fact, you are a clone at that point there. You get? So that's just it. And it cannot happen in sexual reproduction. So they would have to ask your dad, where was I able to create a clone? Probably CIA will capture him or something. So we see the next one is vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation. Now, asexual reproduction is not just limited to unicellular organisms. Like I said, now some of them can just be the growing of them. You understand? Some plants do not have seeds. You get? So in a plant that does not have seed, how can it be propagated? The EFCC, they don't have the capacity of arresting somebody for creating a clone. You understand? They don't. You rate your country too much. So we see vegetative propagation is for plants that do not have seeds. So seed is created through sexual reproduction. You understand? Excuse me. So asexual reproduction now occurs in organisms that do not have, what they call it, or if they have seeds but then want to cross match some things, then that's why we see that it is divided into two methods. The first one is the natural method. The second one is the artificial method, which we are going to talk about. So we see the first example, we have rhizome. Your ginger or exhibits this process here. You understand? So the ginger, once it falls into the ground, it produces roots from the ginger itself, and on the ginger again produces the leaves. You understand? So that is just itself trying to reproduce by itself, because there's no word they call it. So when you hear vegetative propagation, it just means that a part of itself is what is creating the plant. So vegetative means that there is no seed. It is just taking a part of itself. I'm sure some of us have planted yam, and at the end of the day, what we use to plant the yam is just maybe the head of the yam. Does it have a seed? No. So how is it able to grow? It is through what we call an asexual reproduction, called what? Vegetative propagation. You understand? So as you can see, yam also undergoes this process. Onions undergo this process. We have corn, and then we also have runner grass. I'm sure some of us know runner grass. They use it for, what do you call it? Even elephant grass and the rest like that. They use it to beautify your environment. So all these things, all these things here are vegetative propagation. So onions, you have to place the onions itself into the ground for it to grow. The ginger has to be in the ground. Tuber of yam too is the same thing too. So we continue. The artificial method, we've seen the natural method where it uses either part of itself or the whole body to propagate itself. Why for artificial method, we see it's divided into four. We have the cutting, we have the grafting, we have the budding, and the layering, which I'm going to explain in due time. So stay with me. It might be very fast now. Stay with me. The first thing is cutting. Look at this place here. This image here is cutting. That's the first thing here. So what do we do? I said vegetative propagation is either you take part of the plant, or you take the, what do you call it? You take just the whole thing, or you take just part of it. You understand? It just means that you take part of the plant, whether it's the root, part of the root or something. It is not a sexual reproduction. Why is because of what? It's because of, excuse me. Why is because of there is no combination. Again, once it is sexual, the first thing that should come to your mind is fusion of gametes, male and female gametes. If there is no fusion of any gametes in question, you understand, it is an asexual reproduction. Whether it is plant, whether it is animal, when there is no fusion of gametes, it is what? It is asexual reproduction. So in this place here, so you cut part of the plant and then you place it into the ground. That is cutting. You get, it might be cutting of the part of the plant, it might be cutting of the head of the yam, placing it in the ground. That there is cutting, and it is an artificial process. Why? Is because human beings were involved. You understand? So it's the same thing if they get, what do you call it? Yes, all plants undergo vegetative. Not all plants. Thank you very much. Not all plants undergo vegetative. There are some that do so. Not all of them. For example, yam. If you cut the tendrils and you place it in the ground, it will not grow. You understand? So, but if you cut the head, basically. So it's, for potato, it is a different case entirely. Different, the, what do you call it? Excuse me. Mhm. Thank you very much. So now, if you remember when we talked about the types of plants, we talked about the bryophyta, the pteridophyta, we talked about the thallophyta, and we talked about the spermatophyta. And then we said spermatophyta are the plants that they have what? They have both the female and the male organs. That's why we call them the spermatophyta. You understand? Under them, we see that some of the plants in this case, a kingdom plantae, do not have seeds. So the seedless ones, like your potato, if you want to propagate potato, you can just cut the leaves because a creeping plant, place it inside the ground, and then it starts to take root in that place. In fact, wherever a potato creeps to, it has roots in the ground. So if you plant one potato plant, you can have, like, you can harvest potatoes from like 32 different places. You understand? So potatoes are creeping plants. So we continue. So cutting is just cutting a part of the plant and sticking it in the ground. You get, for it to grow. That's the first thing. Now the second one is grafting. Now grafting was used. It was a, what do you call it, that was used? Somebody is saying sorry, sir. Ferns, do they undergo vegetative propagation? Sorry, you guys are having a lot of chat in the group. I'm mixing, what they call it, mixing them up. Okay, no problem. I'm just going to, please, if you have questions, you can write them down. So at the end of the day, so I can respond to every of your questions. So now, grafting was made when scientists thought of a way they could combine two fruits together to produce a new fruit. Say in this case here, we have how should I put it? We have an orange tree that grows very big orange, but does not have lots of juice inside, and if therefore it's not sweet but kind of bitter. And then they had a tree that produces very small oranges, but then that lots of juice, and it was very sweet. So they would take this coin in this place, as you can see, his coin is part of a stem that they cut off. They cut it off, what do you call it, diagonally in that case here, and then they attach it to a stalk. You understand? The stalk here is the lower stem of another plant, which in this case here, the stalk here might be the one of the sweet orange. Then they place this coin on the top of it. You understand? Or might be the one for the bitter orange and they place it there. You understand? Then they now wrap it up with a string or a fiber, and then they wax it up so that the vascular bundles inside are connected. You understand? And therefore, it starts to supply nutrients into the coin of the plant. That is grafting. Grafting is just taking a part of the stem of another plant and then combining it with the stem of another plant, and then they wrap it together. So that was what they were able to do. We see that okay, we continue. So we now see the next one is okay. I'm just seeing different chats. I don't even know which one to respond to like this. That's why I always say you guys should restrict yourself from like typing every time when you guys are when we're having class. Some people have questions to ask. Now, mango and tangerine are two different things. You can't run that for organisms that are not in the same genus. You understand? Now, I would like to just make an example before we move further. This is already 50 minutes into the class, and we've not really gone far like that. So we see you can only do them for organisms of the same genus. An example is you know that life did not give us lemons. We gave lemons life. So for those of you that used to say when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. It's a lie. Life did not give us lemons. We were the one that gave lemons life. So lemons were made from combining citron and what do you call it, and lime trees together. So when they combined it, what they made from the combination of them is lemons. You understand? Lemons was generated. So if you look at the shape of lemons, it has the bud. If you look at the bottom and the top, you see that it looks like the ones of your lime, and then when you look at the body looks like that of the citron. So we see all these names here were made from grafting of the plant. Now the next one is budding. So budding in this place, as you can see, you take a bud from a different tree and then you connect it to the tissue of another tree, then you wrap it up. That's just budding. So it is another example of a vegetative propagation. Now the next one is now layering. So layering can be divided into two. The first one is simple layering, the second one is compound layering. So pay close attention. For those that are typing instead of writing, I hope you guys don't tell me that I should go back. You get mandarin. I don't know about that. I don't think they've been able to do that. Sha. You understand? So they have to be of the same genus. Sha. That's the whole thing I know in biology. So now we have what we call the simple layering. So simple layering is they are plants that you just take them, you put them into the ground, and then you attach them to something like a string. And from that place, they take roots, you understand, and then they start to grow, continually grow. It is done if you want to extend the plant, you understand, and you want to have more products from that plant here. So we see that this place will start to grow roots into the ground and then grow up like that. Some of them they do compound layering, so it's not just in one place. They continually put it inside the ground like that, like in two places, three places, and thereabouts. You get. So that is an example of layering. Said we are fast. Are we? I don't know. Try to keep up. We're already 50 minutes into the class. I don't think that's fast. 53 minutes rather. So try to keep up. So we now see sexual reproduction in plants. We've talked about the asexual reproduction. We've seen what they are. Fragmentation, I think I've explained it. It says just the breaking of a part of an organism. Understand? Then from the broken part, the organism starts to what? To become big. So we now see sexual reproduction in plants. We start with for plants. We've done a whole of nothing. I don't know. Uh the time has gone really gone. So we see sexual reproduction involves the fusion of the male and female gametes, and it occurs in flowering plants. So the major process is four processes that is involved in sexual reproduction. There are four processes involved in it. The first one being pollination, where the male gamete comes across the female gamete and they fuse. That is pollination. Then the next one is fertilization. Fertilization is now that process that happens after. Then after the fertilization where they fuse, we now have the seed formation. Now note, what the plant is trying to produce is not the fruit. We are going to make that clear now. It's not the fruit. Rather, it is the embryo that is present inside the seed that is trying to produce. That is his child. You get? The reason why he just produces fruit is to attract agents of germination like birds, like human beings. Plants are top tier manipulators. You get? If they want to do pollination, they produce very, very bright, colorful flowers to attract pollinators like insects. Insects will go to anything that looks bright. They will go to anything that smells nice. You understand? And therefore, they have these characteristics. You see, flowers smell very nice. You get, so as to attract these insects that will now carry the pollen grains and transfer them to either their own stigma or to another stigma. You understand? For reproduction. And then when they are now done and they have now created the seed, they cannot just open their seed. They can't make their seed naked. Why? Is because they need agents of germination also. So the reason why they provide the fruit and it is very sweet to you is because they know after you have eaten the fruit, you cannot eat the seed. So what you are going to do is just throw it away. And after you've thrown it away, it now starts to germinate from wherever you threw it away. So that is how they propagate themselves. So that whole process from the pollination down to the germination is how plants make themselves what do you call it? This is why they have not been extinct. That's their reproduction process. So attendance, not yet. I'll drop it at the end of my class. Then your last cut, you are being too fast. So we continue. Or do you want to run away from class? So we see, yes, the structure of a flower. The flower. So the flower is divided into four parts. The first one is the sepal, which helps to protect the bud. In this place here, as you can see the sepal in this place here. So what is the work of the sepal? So the sepal, before this flower bloomed, covered the bud. Everything that was present inside the flower was covered by this sepal. Understand? Let me show you an image of the sepal of a flower that's not bloomed. Let me see. Hasn't bloomed. Thank you. Oh, okay. Sorry. A flower that hasn't bloomed. I want to show you an image. Okay. So yeah. Thank you. This is a flower that's not bloomed in this place here. So I'll just share this down. Now, as you can see from this place here, you see that it covered the flower. It is on the outside there. It is color green in this place here, covering the flower. You understand? So what it does, it helps to protect the old things that are present inside there, so they don't just like spill outside. So that's the work of it. That's the sepal there. So if you look at the sepal and you say, okay, how is it protecting the bud? You get, it is by doing what? By by covering it before it blooms. So as you can see, the sepals are present there. Then the next one is the petals, which exists to attract pollinators. So the reasons why flowers have different colors is because so that they can attract pollinators or agents of pollination. That's what we call pollinators. Now the next one is the stamen, which is the what? The male reproductive part. It is what? Comprised of the anther and the filament. So the next one, which is the carpel, is the pistil, or known as the pistil, is the female reproductive part, which is comprised of the stigma, the style, the ovary. As you can see, the oval is the house. The oval is the eggs that are present inside. The ovary is now this guy that is on the outside. It is the ovary that becomes the fruit. You understand? You can see that the oval here is the what? It's like the embryo. So do you see that it is not the fruit that the plant is trying to propagate? Rather, it is the oval. The oval is where your embryo exists, and therefore it has to be propagated. So now, the male reproductive part of a flower is a stamen, which consists of the anther. The anther is where the pollen grains are stored. As you can see, the cross section of your anther, you see inside it, we have lots of pollen grains or called pollen sacs in this place here, where the pollen grains exist, by the way. And then we now have the filament, which supports the anther. We look at it again in this place here. We see that we have a lot of them here. We see that we have what? The anther too, that is on the edge of the filament in that place here. So now, the pollen grain contains the male gametes. So the male gamete is inside the pollen grain. So now we continue. The female reproductive organ, which is the carpel, is comprised of the stigma. Yes, this is the stigma in this place here. This here, the outer and the internal part, which is the pollen tube, is the combination of the stigma. You understand? And what does he use it for? Is to receive the pollen from the pollen grain. You understand? So it receives it through this pollen tube, and then the style connects it to the what? To the ovary. This here is the stigma. The style is the one that runs down into this place here. The style is below the stigma. So you connect the, what do you call it, to the ovule. You understand? The ovary now contains the ovule. It's just like a woman's womb. You get. In dandelions, the seeds are exposed. Mm. We'll talk about that at the end of the class. I'm going to explain that. The seeds basically are not exposed. You get, it is, if it is exposed, then it is an angiosperm, not a gymnosperm. You understand? And dandelions are gymnosperms. So we'll talk about that. So now, pollination is now the transfer of the pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of a flower, either of the same flower. You understand? So when the pollen grain is transferred from this anther to this stigma in this place here, it is a pollination process. Just the transfer of it is a pollination. But when it gets into the ovary, it is not a pollination anymore. It is now fertilization. Understand? Fusion of gametes is what we call fertilization. So, or it might be cross-pollination between different plants of the same species. So only the pollen grain of a species can fuse with the ovule of the same species. You get, it cannot fuse, you cannot see the flower of a mango now. You understand? The pollen grain of that mango now going to what they call it, another one, except maybe by genetic mutation. And when you talk about genetic mutation, which I think Daniel Lascott is trying to say there in Mandarin, you understand? It is not under this topic whatsoever. Genetic mutation is not reproduction. So please, let's get that straight. You get, so it's not asexual reproduction. It's not what they call it. It might just be genetic mutation of plants. Maybe like taking a DNA material of one plant, taking a DNA material of another plant, and then trying to fuse it together. You understand? That's an artificial process of mutation. So we now see agents of pollination are wind. Pollen grains are very, very light. You understand? So pollen grains are very light to the extent that winds can carry them. You get. Another one is insect. As you can see, self-pollination and cross-pollination is the image you have here. So insects, when they go to a plant to suck from the nectar, they end up carrying pollen grains on them. And then they go to another plant to suck the nectar. They transfer it into that plant, and therefore they can now cross-pollinate the plant. You get. So we have water also does the same thing, and then animals, especially animals with fur on them. Like you guys have walked through bushes before, and you look at your hair, the hair on your skin, and you see pollen grains on it. You get something that looks maybe like yellow or some kind of color that looks like dust like this on you. Those are pollen grains, and you have just helped a flower propagate them to another flower. So as you continually move, you get that there propagates them. So we continue. What is the difference between self-pollination and cross-pollination? We have self-pollination and we have cross-pollination. No, we have 25 minutes left. So the first one is, what is the difference? In this case here, let's just see what, yeah, the difference is, the first thing is there is less variation. Now, I think somebody asked a question. I think, is it Yusuf Aisha? Somebody asked a question, and I said, when we get somewhere, we are going to explain the question. Why have I forgotten this question like this? Okay. Uh, uh, okay, yes, I think it's Benita Philip. A second question. She said, why is there transfer of, what do you call it? Why is it important? So I'm going to make mention of this now. Now, in this place here, we see during self-pollination, there is less variation. Now, let's take two things, and I think you guys are very, very familiar with this. There's one beans we call drum beans. There's one beans we call honey beans. In Yoruba, they say ewa drum, ewa olóyin, you get. So the honey beans, you know, is very, very sweet, even if you don't add salt, or some of you that put sugar in your beans. Even if you don't add any of this, it's very, very sweet. Like it is the, what they call it, of incarnation of sugar. You get, that's honey beans. And then we now have drum beans. Now drum beans are bigger than honey beans, but they are not as sweet as honey beans. So if you have what do you call it, pollination of the flower of honey beans, you understand? If you have it pollinating itself, there won't be any variation. The plant you are going to have next is just honey beans. You get, and then we see less energy is required for that process because the anther and the stigma are present in the same flower. And we also see that it occurs in bisexual flowers. When they say bisexual flowers, it possesses both the anther and the stigma. In that case here, the anther and the stigma are present in the same flower. You understand? So it can just undergo the process. Like the insect can help with self-pollination also. Now, but if you look at cross-pollination, let's say the pollen grains of the beans that is sweet is transferred to the drum beans. You understand? You will see that there will be a variation. The next generation of beans that will be produced from that pollination process will be big and at the same time will be sweet, a lot more sweeter. So it has more variation and then healthier offspring. So this is where the question, I'm going to answer Benita Phillips' question. Now, in the past, royal bloodlines, they used to believe that you should marry between your bloodline so as to preserve the royal bloodline. So they will say, even if you are attracted to a peasant, can we call them hermaphrodites? I don't know. It is left to you. I've never seen them use hermaphrodites with them before. So it's left to you. You can choose to call it hermaphrodite by yourself. So now back to Benita Phillips here. If we look at this, you look at the royal bloodline, you see that they will say brother should marry sister. You get. And the problem is that a child that is born from incest, in this case here, inherits both the strengths and the weaknesses. And that is why you notice that sometimes the, what do you call it, the number of chromosomes are not okay. Then you have a child that has Down syndrome. If you've seen children that the way they move is somehow erratic, they are not capable of processing information and stuff like that, aka what they call it, kids that are special needs. You understand? Some of them were born from incest. And the reason is because they inherited both the defects in the genes. Now, the defect of one gene and another gene now comes together because they are the same defect, becomes stronger. But if you cross-pollinate, which is the same thing in human beings. When you marry from different, what do you call it, in that place here, you create an hybrid. An hybrid is way stronger than the initial pure bloodlines. You understand? It's just like saying you marry a white woman. You understand? The child you are going to give birth to is going to be very, very, beautiful, handsome, or whatsoever. In that case here, you get. So all these things here, they um they help, you get, as you are able to pass the strength of your DNA and the strength of another person's DNA together, then the weaknesses which are not shown, you get, can now recede further. Say for example, if you are somebody that has R factor, now you cannot pronounce R, and your brother also has R factor, you cannot pronounce R, and you guys now marry each other. I'm not saying for you guys, you get, I'm just using it as an example. Your child might even have fear of R, you get, because it's now very hard when the whole weakness that you guys have now becomes a total strength in the kid. You get. So that's another thing. So that's why we see that cross pollination provides healthier offsprings, and then it now requires that, this is where the disadvantage occurs. It requires pollinating agents. In instance, if there's no pollinating agent, they cannot be propagated from a flower to another flower. So we continue. After pollination, when the pollen grain has entered into the stigma, the next thing, and has traveled down the style or the pollen tube, in that case here, what now happens is that it now calls for what? For fertilization. So the process, the pollen lands on the stigma, the first thing, the pollen tube now goes down the style. Excuse me. It grows down the style, and then the male nucleus travels to the ovule in this place here, and then the, what do you call it, fusion then occurs between the pollen grain and the what, and the ovule in that place here. So the result of this is that a zygote is formed. You understand? So the zygote is the one that now becomes the what? That is now enclosed inside the seed. You get. So it's not the fruit, it's not the seed, it is the zygote. Then the zygote now has a seed coat and the rest. Then you have the seed inside it. So inside the seed is where we find the zygote. That's why if you open beans, you see something that looks white that is inside it like this. That's the one that grows out. You don't see the beans growing itself. It is something inside it that grows. We call it the radicle. So we are going to get them. So you see in this place here, it occurs in flowering plants. So we want to talk about the double fertilization. So the first one is the male gamete and the egg cell. As you can see, as it grows into this place here, the egg cell and the what? And the male gamete, they fuse. So the release of sperm into it. And then you now have double fertilization. So the male gametes now react with the what? The polar nuclei, which is inside the endosperm. I hope I've not lost anybody there. So it is inside it is inside the endosperm. And the process is called double fertilization. What you just have to take away from this place is that the first one is the male gamete and the female gamete, which is the egg cell. They react together to form a zygote, while the male gamete now goes further to react with the polar nuclei to form the endosperm. Understand? Forms the what? The endosperm. Excuse me. So we'll see the same thing in human beings, not very, very long from now. So we have 17 minutes left. So fruit formation is now after the whole thing. So the fruit formation, why does it, what they call it? Because so that the seed will not be naked. So we see, like I said, the fruit here, this is the flower of a potato. Sorry, of a tomato. So from here, we see the ovule in this place here becomes the fruit. Sorry, the ovary rather. This is the ovary. I said the ovary is the one that houses the ovule. You get. So the ovary becomes the fruit. The ovules are the ones that become what? They become the seed. Then the zygote, which is present inside the ovule, is now remaining as the embryo that is inside the seed. You understand? So it's that embryo that when it now touches the ground, now starts to grow out by itself. So it still remains a zygote even while you are eating it. It has not fully matured into a what do you call it? A living organism. So that's just how it is. So we see that sexual reproduction, thank you very much, Mentor Philip. Sexual reproduction is a very long process. You understand? As compared to what? Asexual reproduction. So fruit dispersal protects the seed, or sorry, the fruit protects the seed and aids dispersal. So we, like I mentioned earlier, so we need the fruit to, number one, protect the seed, and then the second one is to aid dispersal. And how does it aid the dispersal? Is by attracting germination agents or dispersal agents, like we human beings. You that you like to eat mango, you understand? You don't understand that the plant has tricked you to help him what? Propagate. So it's just like you guys are trying to undergoing transaction. So what you are just going to do is eat my fruit, for in exchange, just help me throw the mango seed somewhere else so that I can propagate myself. So that's what, as what they call it. Yes, thank you very much. You are going to get there. It works the same, Benita Phillips. So, classification of fruit. So, if a fruit should have one ovary in this place here, as you can see, for every plant we've talked about in this place here now, they just have one ovary. You see in this place also, this image here, we have one ovary. It provides a simple fruit. And by simple fruit, the ovary, yeah, ovary, oval or ovary. Oval works the same way as the ovary in a woman. You get the ovary is where the what the eggs are. So the what do you call it? The ovary does the same work as the ovary in the human being. Why the oval, which is the seed, or yes, the one that is growing to be the seed, is the same thing as what they call it, the lining. You understand? Uh, let me not say that, you get, because inside the oval, okay, yes, I think that's I think everybody is cool now. So the inside the seed is where the embryo is, but for the human being, the ova, which is the eggs that come out of the ovary, is the one that becomes the human being. So from here we have the simple fruit. You see that their placentation in the center, they have just one center, like your oranges, like your mango. You see them that they have just one, what they call it, one center. You get. So now, for aggregate fruit, example, strawberries, it is from one flower that has many ovaries. Please, let's note this. Questions come out on it a lot every year. So inside them, as you can see, it has lots of what they call it. Excuse me. I want to show an image. Um, mm, mm, so okay, sorry, let's just continue with this. Once I get the image, I'll be the images I'm seeing now, not it. So we continue. So we see the strawberries. You see, an example is strawberry. So if you notice, some of you that are eating strawberries very, very well, you see that it does not just have a center. You get, it has different places where the whole thing exists. So we see they have many ovaries and therefore do not have just one center. As you can, if you look at this place here, um, if you've seen the center of an orange, you will see that this is how it looks. That center looks like this, and then you have the seeds that are being dispersed inside it. That's how it looks. But when you have the fruit that has been, you see this place also, the center of the ovary becomes the center of the fruit. And therefore, this here is a what? Is a simple fruit because it has just one ovary. But if it has lots of ovaries, so it creates lots of fruit, and then the fruits now conjoin together, forming aggregate fruit. It's the same thing as your strawberry. So then we now have multiple fruits. What are multiple fruits? Understand? Okay, an example, we've seen strawberries. Strawberries are found in bunches. Grapes are found in bunches. With those ones are types of what? Aggregate fruit. Now, multiple fruit is now the conjoined. We have one, just one flower, and then it provides lots of fruit, and then the fruits start to exist as one. So as you can see, for your pineapple, we have lots of serrations around them. It means that pineapple is a multiple fruit that conjoined to be one. You get. So I believe maybe it's at the end of the class. I'll just drop the link for your test, and you guys can just attend the test and the what they call it and the assignment. You know, some of you are here for the attendance code, so I'll soon drop the attendance code at the end of the class. So we see multiple fruit is provided from many flowers. Example is your pineapple. You understand? So you see the flowers of a pineapple, and then they now conjoin together, and then you see what they call it, one fruit. So germination. Germination is the next process after the what do you call it, the fertilization and production of fruit. So after you've eaten the fruit, then the seed is transferred into the ground, and then the seed now grows the embryo, which forms a radicle, and then we have all these things here present in this place. So what is germination? Is the development of a seed into a seedling. You understand? It's the development of a seed into a seedling. You get. So a seedling is what grows into a plant. So the conditions required is water. You understand? To be able to soften the seed and allow the embryo to grow. The next one is oxygen. Oxygen has to be present. You understand? For it to grow. So it needs a suitable temperature and then a viable seed. So a viable seed means that the seed, the embryo inside the seed is not dead. So you cannot boil beans now and then now say you want to plant it. Have you ever wondered why if you place rice in the ground, it does not grow? Some of you, when you were a kid, you wanted to plant rice at your backyard so you can have money. You get, most of us did it. The reason why it did not grow, I started crying that, oh, I'm going to be poor, stuff like that, is because the rice has been parboiled. You understand? It is not your, what do you call it, normal rice that you get from the field. You get, it has been parboiled. You get, so being parboiled, they also dried it also, and therefore it made the seeds of the rice non-viable. You understand? It makes it non-viable. So therefore, you cannot plant a seed that the embryo is dead. So you can't boil beans and say you want to plant it. No. So it has to have a viable seed. So those are the conditions required. Light sometimes is required, but it is not always required, as seeds can also grow in darkness. So we continue. Types of germination. We have two types of germination. The first one is epigeal germination, and the second one is hypogeal germination. Understand? The epigeal germination has the cotyledons, which are called the seed leaves. Cotyledons are the leaves that are growing from the seeds. You understand? We call them the seed leaves. We see that they come above the soil. Now, if you look at it, in the reason why they parboil the rice is because so that they can dry it up. You understand? Just drying the rice would have, what they call it, would have not been able to prevent it, rice rust, rice smut, and the rest. If you did agree very well, you understand that all these things affect rice. You get, so they have to parboil it and dry it up so that it can stay long in store. You get, rice is a food that can last someone through farming if you are able to preserve it very, very well. You get, so, and you see they carry them inside sacks all around. You just try pouring small water on your rice and you see why they parboiled your rice. You just start to decay like that. Beans is not parboiled. Beans is just dried. It's not dead. If you cook beans, you'll not be able to plant it. But if you have original beans and you plant it in the soil, it will grow. You get That is why you see weevils. And another thing that happens during this, the reason why they cross pollinate plants is there was a time that there were beans that weevils used to attack the most. So they plant them with weevil resistant beans. So they did a cross pollination so that the beans will not be attacked by weevil. So we see the cotyledons come above the soil. Example is beans. Bean in this case here. So the cotyledons come, beans grow. Yeah, the one that is not planted very well. So no, the cotyledons come above the ground. Example is beans. As you can see here, the cotyledons come above the ground. While for hypogeal germination, the cotyledons remain in the soil. So example is maize. If you look at this image here, you see it here, cotyledons remain in the ground. It doesn't grow up. You understand? So it's the same thing here, what they are just trying to explain in this place. Excuse me. So now, reproduction in mammals. Maybe I should get a Mentos, probably. I think I'm having permission moving my throat, causing irritation of my throat. So we continue. Mammals reproduce sexually. So I want to talk about reproduction in mammals. We've seen for plants, we've seen for unicellular organisms. At this point, Benita Felix, I hope you understand why we did not just go to human beings or to mammals directly. I've answered your question. So, yes, actually. So mammals reproduce sexually and fertilization is internal. Yes, so we don't lay eggs except for platypus, and that's normal. It's not under the scope of my topic. So we see two major systems are the MRS, which is the male reproductive system, and the FRS, which is the female reproductive system. So the next slide is just going to be us talking about the male and the female reproductive system. So hang on tight. The first one is the male reproductive system, which is comprised of the testes. The testes is the most prized possession of a man. Understand? I'm not going to say more than that. It is where it produces the sperm. The sperm is being produced inside those egg-looking structures that are present in a male's scrotum. You understand? So, Igbo people say scrotum. You get. So it is where sperm is produced inside the testis. So testis, testis, is singular. Testes is plural. So testes help to produce your sperm. Now the scrotum, which is the scrotum, holds the testes. Not just holds the testes, it helps it to maintain the temperature. That is why in the code, for guys, they understand this very well. Your scrotum shrinks. Yeah, let's just call it shrinks up. It becomes flaccid. It shrinks up. Why? Is because it should be able to cough is there's a reason that why I said that. I'm not trying to relate it to biology. I'm just saying that. So it is the scrotum, you understand, that shrinks up, shrivels up to maintain the temperature. The reason why it is outside your body is because your body has a temperature that is higher than the room temperature. You understand? That is why we are called warm-blooded animals. So it is higher than the room temperature and can affect the reactions that are going on in your testes to produce your sperm, and therefore it is outside your body, not inside your body like the gametes of women. You understand? So it has to be at an optimum temperature. So the epididymis now stores the sperm that is being produced in the testes. So after it is being produced, the epididymis, which is attached to the what do you call it, the testis, now stores the sperm. Understand? It's the wire-like substance that is present inside if you touch it. So we see the next one is the vas deferens. The vas deferens is the one that now connects to the urethra. The urethra is that hole that is in your penile region that helps to pass out your urine, but also pass out sperm. You understand? It connects to the urethra. If you look at this image very well, uh, look at this image very well. You see that this guy here is called your vas deferens. So it connects to the urethra, and during what they call it, intercourse, now transports the sperm into the urethra. And when it's time, somebody said when it's time for chemistry. She's our mom widow. So we see it is connected to this place, and then we see the whole, what do you call it? It's now passed out through the urethra. Understand? So the vas deferens helps to transport the sperm from the epididymis to the urethra, and then the penis is the contrusion or the intrusion that helps to now deposit the sperm in a female reproductive organ. So the male sex hormones is not the hormones for sex. Please listen. Male sex hormone is the hormone that makes you a male. The reason why you have a deep voice, you have hair in your pubic regions, is because you are a male. You have facial hair, is because you are a male, and therefore you possess testosterone. You understand? So that's the male sex hormone. Now, the female reproductive organ is this. So this is a, what do you call it? This is the I will respond to your question at the end of the class. We passed the time already. So we see the ovary produces the ova. As you can see, this is the ovary, and that's where the egg exists. Understand? The size of your sperm is around 0.001 centimeter, which is very, very small. So it can only be viewed using the microscope. So it's present in your semen. Your semen is the liquid that contains the nutrients that the sperm feeds on. You understand? The image I wanted to show was the image of the sperm. You can go and check it out by yourself. The sperm is the male mature sex gamete. So it is mature. It has a head that has a mitochondria. Now, if you know what mitochondria is used for, mitochondria is the powerhouse of a cell where respiration occurs. So because the sperm is going to be swimming, it needs energy. You understand? It needs energy, and therefore it has a head. You understand? The center or the thorax of your, what do you call it, is where your nucleus is present. You get, which contains the DNA that is going to use to fertilize the egg. Now, it now needs, for locomotion, it needs a tail to move, a flagellum. It needs it to move. That's how your sperm moves. So it has to swim. Now, out of the millions of sperm cells that you produce during reproduction, only one fertilizes the egg. So the others are used for nutrition for the egg to, what do you call it? So that's the life of a man. So we see the ovary produces the ova in, what do you call it? So the size of your sperm is 0.001 centimeter, while for your egg it is 0.5 centimeter. So it is visible. That is why you notice during menstruation where they shed the eggs. You understand? Eggs are produced by your ovary every month. So when they shed the eggs, you see that the blood is visible. If it was very, very small, you understand, the blood will not be visible. You understand? So that blood there is the one that houses your egg, and so on and so forth during the menstruation. I'm not going deeper into that. So we see the ovary, the work of the ovary is to produce the ova. As you can look at this cross section of the ovary, that's where the ova is. So now the fallopian tube is the site where the sperm meets the egg, and there is a fertilization. Then the uterus or the uteral membrane or the uteral lining is where the egg implants itself and starts to develop. Now, the contact, the point of contact of implantation, when it implants itself on this uterus here, is what forms the placenta, and it is the connection between the mother and the child for the whole of the gestation period, which is 9 months. You understand? So it is where the child feeds. The food that the mother eats goes into the placenta. The what they call it, the water the mother drinks, the oxygen, everything is through the placenta. You get even red blood cells and the rest of the what they call it that the child needs to survive throughout the whole 9 months. It is through the what they call it placenta. That's why you notice women will be hungry at one point. They will now say, "Oh, I'm not hungry again." They will crave one thing. They will say they don't crave it anymore. Kudos to women, sharp. So we see uterus is the site of development. Cervix is the muscle. You understand? It's the muscle. It's the muscle that contracts and expands during childbirth. You understand? It is the muscle that contracts and expands during childbirth. Also, yeah, let's just say it's the muscle that contracts and expands during childbirth. That's just it. And then the vagina is the pathway through which sperm travels into this whole reproductive system. That is what your vagina is. So now, how does fertilization occur? We're just going to wrap this up and then we'll call it a day. So fertilization occurs when there is a fusion between what? Sperm and the ovum. So the sperm travels in via this pathway and then goes into this place. While the egg, the brain sends a what they call it, a message to the because during your what do you call it, your ladies understand this very very well, where you have phases, where you have your luteal phase, you have your follicular phase, you have those things like that. If you ask a lady, they will explain it to you. You understand? So after your what do you call it, after your menstruation, you understand, where you've shed the eggs, then there is an ovulation period where your body is clamoring for birth. You understand? That is reproductive season for women. You understand? There is egg released into the fallopian tube where the sperm meets it. So the egg leaves the ovary and enters the fallopian tube during ovulation, and then, or the other phases rather. Understand? It's just the time where the egg is being pushed into a fallopian tube that we call the ovulation period. So the sperm travels, and then one sperm enters into the nucleus of the eggs. It sheds the head and the tail away, and then the nucleus that is present in the center of the sperm now fuses with the nucleus of the egg. After there is a fusion, then it starts to travel down. There's a split of cell which we call the meiosis into two cells. Fertilized egg divides, two cells, four cells, 8 cells, and then it now implants itself on the uterus, and therefore it now starts to go. So we see it occurs in the fallopian tube where there's a fusion, and the result is the formation of a zygote. So this is a zygote in this place here. So now, so the stages is now from zygote, which is this guy, the fertilized egg, into embryo. This is the embryonic stages. We have the 2-cell stage, it moves to a 4-cell stage, to an 8-cell stage, 16-cell stage, and it goes into blastocyst. So blastocyst, yeah, correct. So blastocyst is when the cells multiply without end and they start to what? To fuse into each other to form tissues. You understand? So it is still present inside this membrane. Yeah, you understand? The membrane still exists throughout the whole process. You get? So, but because it is attached to the wall, so if you've ever seen a child that is being born before, you see that they say the water bag broke first. The water broke. So what is the water breaking in this case here? It is the fluid that holds the child, that is inside the membrane that the child is. You understand? That helps to feed the child, that helps the child to absorb oxygen there helps a lot of things. You get that the membrane breaks. So this is the membrane. You understand? It breaks and then the whole fluid comes out. So they say the water breaks. You understand? And then after the child comes out with the placenta. And again, the placenta is what? It is the attachment of the child to the utera, or the, what they call it, the wall of the uterus. So that's it. So implantation occurs on where? The uterus lining. We've explained that. So fetus is a child that has not been born. So gestation period for human being is around 9 months. It's around 9 months. So it's around 9 months. I've talked about period a while ago. I talked about period is the what? The shedding of eggs when it has not been fertilized. So when the egg remains in the what do you call it, the fallopian tube for a month and it is not fertilized, it is just passed out. You understand? And then another egg is being made. So that process there is called the, what they call it. So, and it's a very, very painful process. Yet ladies can explain to you very well. So with this, we have come to the, okay, childbirth. The breaking of the water. Yes, it's childbirth. Oh, it's childbirth. Fertilized egg, but this is not menstruation that I'm explaining to you here. This is what's childbirth. So the breaking of the water is just this membrane that is around it that contains the fluid that contains lots of nutrients for the child. Please don't say because it contains lots of nutrients. It's not gonna be playing with water that breaks from a woman. You get, so they will beat you, they will almost kill you. So now we have come to the end of the class. I'm going to share the link for, what do you call it, attendance. So that's it on the screen there. So you can mark your attendance. I'm going to drop two links. The first link for the, what do you call it, for the test, while the second link is for the assignment. There's an assignment on the Padlet link, so you guys can attempt the assignment. So so Benja Phillips asked if the, what they call it, sexual intercourse with a woman, the sperm is not coming from the testes. It has already been made in the testes, and the scrotum is not responsible for anything rather than housing the testes. You understand? Making sure that the testis is not outside, so that you just don't see the testis dangling by itself on the outside. And it also helps the testis to maintain minimal temperatures. I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say in this place here. So yeah, that's just everything about everything. So yes, where it exists, the sperm is made in the testes, but during the sexual intercourse, it's not coming out from the testes. It is stored in the epididymis, so that whenever you are having intercourse, you can now release it from inside the epididymis. So that's it. So yes, yeah, they said that's why I said at most 9 months. 9 months, at most 9 months is a couple of weeks basically. I think gestation period happens within 20, sorry, the fetus gets, what they call it, between 20 to 27 weeks. If you do the arithmetic very well, you divide, say, 28 weeks by, let's say 28 weeks in this case, you divide it by 4, it is 7, understand? But it takes time for some people, you get, I mean, I think for me, I'm not going to tell you about for me how many months they spent. So your dashboard is still malfunctioning. How do you take the test? So I'm not sending the test to your dashboard. You get, I am going to send the test directly to you guys. Understand? The one on my screen is your attendance link, so you guys can take your attendance. You get, so let me just send this to you guys. Test link. So does anyone have a question? If you have a question, you can ask. If you have a question, you can ask. Sorry, let me resend this again. I think there is always a problem with this thing. Excuse me. So this is the test link. I don't even know why it's still joining itself. Magdalene. Who is chatting? No live class. Uh, what is going on? I've not switched it off. I think it's your what do you call it? Try refreshing it. So I'm going to send the one for the assignment also, so you guys can attempt it also. Yep, I'm gonna send for the assignment. Uh, it's the same thing yours is showing. Oh, if there is no what do you call it, there's nothing I can do about that. Sorry, I'm going to apologize for that. Then, so probably, what about for the others? Ah, I don't know what that is about. Okay, probably it's not for this class then. I'm coming. Excuse me. This is it now. Biology 6 to 4. That's the only thing that's it. Um, ah, can't. You guys, this is the test. What do you call it? Okay, okay. At this point, oh nice. Sorry, my guys. I apologize. So probably next class, I'll just make it up to you guys. So this is the test link. This is the assignment link. I've sent it to you guys, so you guys can attempt the questions on the links. Yeah. So, um, until next class, then. Peace out, guys. Make sure you read and stay sharp. Bye, guys. Good night.